We are almost 2 whole months into the release of Marvel Rivals. With it being the newest hero shooter on the market, it's honestly the best time to get my beginner's guide out there. Whether you've been grinding away at Overwatch for years or you've never played a hero shooter in your life, this is going to be the perfect beginner's guide for you. We'll be covering everything you need to know from roles, game modes, synergies, and more. I'm going to continue to upload insane amounts of Marvel Rivals content. Be sure to press that subscribe button now so you don't miss out. First, we have to talk about what makes Marvel Rivals fall into the hero shooter category. Being a hero shooter means there is a very large amount of characters that all operate differently at a fundamental level, especially in Rivals where characters have abilities that are going to go on cooldown after one use. This means that once they are used, you'll have to wait a certain amount of time before you're able to use them again. Each character comes with two different kinds of abilities, passive and active abilities. Passive abilities will trigger automatically or will already be triggered by simply spawning in. Active abilities require you to press a button to trigger and are on cooldown once they have been triggered. On top of that, each character has a different mechanic with primary fire, so not every character is going to feel the same when attacking. There are also a handful of melee characters in the game. In addition to everything we just mentioned, each character comes with a powerful ultimate which, if used right, has the ability to alter the outcome of a team fight or even the entire match. Combining all of this together is what makes a hero shooter so special. It allows for many different styles of play between many different characters. This is going to allow you to find the perfect set of characters that fit your playstyle. Alright, we now know why Marvel Rivals is classified as a hero shooter, so let's start building upon our newfound knowledge. In Rivals, you'll find 3 different roles: Vanguard, Duelist, and Strategist. Each of these roles comes with their own set of characters, responsibilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Vanguard, more commonly referred to as tanks, are large and wide characters with substantial health pools, allowing you to soak up crazy amounts of damage without dying in order to protect your team. Within the tank role, it is your job to be the front line, take advantageous space, and engage for your team. You'll find that most characters within this role come equipped with some kind of shield, whether it's something you can hold, like Doctor Strange's Shield of the Seraphim, or an active ability you can trigger, like Venom's Symbiotic Resilience. Their ultimates can pack quite a punch with the ability to wipe the entire team, sending them back to spawn. Duelist, more commonly referred to as DPS, are small to medium-sized characters with low to moderate health pools. They output the maximum amount of damage across all 3 classes. It is their job to secure eliminations to give your team the upper hand in both team fights and the match. You'll find that many characters in this role come with a very oppressive primary fire, along with active abilities that can do a multitude of things to enemy players, such as stun, pull, and burst damage. Their ultimates are very overwhelming at times. They pack a large amount of firepower and also give huge mobility buffs, allowing you to get in strong positions to output insane amounts of damage. Strategist, more commonly referred to as supports, are small characters with low health pools. They output healing to friendly teammates as well as themselves, while also doing a considerable amount of damage to enemies. It is their job to make sure teammates' health is topped off first and then following up with damage second. Every character in this role comes equipped with a mode of fire that is meant to heal friendlies and a mode that is meant to damage enemies. Their active abilities feature stuns, burst heals, burst damage, heal buffs, damage buffs, and more. Their ultimates play the most vital role in the game currently. Well-timed strategist ults have the ability to swing momentum in teamfights and entire games, even whenever you think the game is completely lost. Most character ultimates allow you to use it both offensively and defensively, making them very versatile, allowing them to mold to your playstyle. Okay, so we've defined how Marvel Rivals fits into the hero shooter genre, covered the 3 different roles within the game. Now it's time to continue building on our knowledge and talk about heroes. But wait, Beeben, we literally just got done talking about that. Yeah, I know, but unique to Rivals, there are certain synergies you unlock by combining certain heroes together, giving you either a new passive or active ability to use. This is called team-ups. These can be super strong, especially if you're playing with a friend who's willing to follow suit. Some of them can be very strong, while others are a little lackluster. What I'm trying to say is, it's a mixed bag, and it's for sure going to take you some playtime to learn what works and what doesn't. Some of these team-ups are 100% needed to make your character viable, while others aren't really necessary. A good example example being Hela, Thor, and Loki. Hela is already an S tier DPS character as is. While her team up does create added value, it's not needed to make her a viable option in really any team composition. Which takes me right into my next point. We have to discuss team comps. The current consensus on the meta is 2-2-2, meaning 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 supports, but this is absolutely not a requirement to win games. There is no role queue for a reason. This is where hero shooters shine. You can be creative and still win your games. I will note that 2-1-3 and 1-2-3 is rising significantly in popularity. 3 supports makes it almost impossible for DPS to land eliminations without otherwise pumping damage, which in return feeds enemy support ultimates, meaning that the game shifts to an even heavier ultimate economy meta, which makes for a really boring game in my opinion. Anyway, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Before we can dive into any more advanced topics, we have to talk about how to choose your first main in Marvel Rivals. I know, exciting, right? It absolutely should be. The first thing I really suggest you do before choosing any kind of main is play everything at least once, please. This is going to give you such a deeper understanding of how the entire game works and how roles work off of one another. If you only play DPS, you're going to struggle to grasp how tanks and supports fit into the equation. Now, once you've gotten a good taste of most roles, there are a few different paths you can take. If you come from games like Counter-Strike, Valorant, and Rainbow Six, I would highly suggest leaning more towards hit scan characters like Hela, Punisher, Psylocke, etc. If you're someone that's maybe coming from MMORPGs like World of Warcraft or story-driven games like action RPGs, Elden Ring, etc., I would suggest leaning more towards support. You probably excel in monitoring multiple things on your screen at once, which is a necessary skill for healers. If you want to give tanking a try, absolutely go for it, but if you're new to hero shooters, I suggest learning the other 2 roles first. The reason being that tanks are usually your in-game leaders. They need to understand how DPS and support characters work to know their limits and the teams. And of course, if you're coming from a similar title like Overwatch or Paladins, play whatever you're comfortable with. I'd suggest playing comparable characters to your hero pool in either games before getting too crazy with it, just to build a basic understanding of how this game works. Alright, now that we have defined how Marvel Rivals fits into the hero shooter genre, discussed roles, heroes, and selected our first main, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty and discuss game modes. In Rivals, you're going to come across 3 different main game modes in both quick play and competitive. These 3 game modes are Convoy, Convergence, and Domination. Convoy is very similar to Overwatch's Payload, which means when players from the attacking team are standing on the payload, it will move, but when players from the opposing team are also standing on the payload, it is at a stalemate. In order to move the cart, you need to eliminate the enemy team to create space. You must push the cart to the end to earn the maximum amount of points within the round. While on defense, if the enemy team pushes the payload further than your team, then they win by default. But if both teams successfully push the payload to all checkpoints, then the game enters a somewhat of a sudden death style overtime. Basically, whoever pushes the cart furthest with their allotted amount of remaining time wins. Simple, right? Currently, the maps for Convoy are Ixgard Yggdrasil, Tokyo 2099 Spider Islands, and Empire of Eternal Night Midtown. Convergence requires you to attack a point, secure it, and then escort the payload to the finish line. Once the initial first point is capped, then all basic fundamentals of Convoy apply. So Convergence and Convoy are related in more ways than not. Currently, the maps for Convergence are Tokyo 2099 Shin Shibuya, Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, Hall of Jallia, and Clintar Symbiotic Surface. Domination features a best-of-3 format. Each map comes with 3 separate points that you will then fight to control. This is just like King of the Hill for all of you Overwatch lovers out there. You'll fight to cap the point, and once you do, each second counts as 1%. The first team to hit 100% wins. A key element to remember here is that when the enemy team caps the point, just because you are fighting them on top of the point does not mean that the progress bar stops, like in Convoy and Convergence. The percentage bar still ticks, so it is very important to end fights quickly, even if that means jumping off the side of the map when you know it's a team wipe to ensure minimal time waste. Currently, the maps for Domination are Ixgard Royal Palace, Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, Burnin T'Challa and Hydra, Chartice Base, Hell's Heaven. We now finally have all of the basic information and understanding needed to step into the main component of playing Marvel Rivals, team fighting. Team fighting is like an onion. There's an abundance of layers, and the more you cut into it, the more difficult it gets. I'm not going to beat around the bush. This is a part of Marvel Rivals that is going to take you some time to truly learn, and it's something that will really test your mental fortitude. This is where frustration and anger starts to manifest for most people in ranked, making for a truly tilting experience. Before you try to jump in and lose your marbles a little bit, let me break down the basics for you. I plan to cover this topic a little bit down the line in a more advanced video. Looking at this top-down view of a ranked match, I'm going to outline what the basic layout should be for your team. You'll find the 2 tanks in the front line as they should be, soaking up damage for their team so their supports can charge ultimates quickly and the DPS players can move freely. Next, we'll find the 2 DPS players sitting in a warm, cozy pocket between their tanks and healers, allowing them to focus on landing eliminations. Finally, we'll find 2 supports in the back line, relaxing and allowing themselves to focus heavily on friendly and enemy health bars. Now that we see what a basic push should look like, I want to highlight what you should do in a few very common scenarios. First, if you're tanking and you see either a DPS or support low, you need to focus them and help your DPS player land that elimination. Secondly, once you do land a kill or you use an ability to gain some ground, please take a second, find some cover, and call for your support players to heal you if they aren't. If you decide to continue walking forward, there's a very high chance that you do end up dying and that push is over. If you're on DPS, do not overextend if you're not on a flanking character. Most flanking characters have a get out of jail free card, which allows them to walk behind the enemy and then quickly exit. This is something I'd like to cover in a more advanced video as well, but for now, just heed my warning. And second, do not spend a lot of time pumping the enemy tanks with damage. With the current meta, it is your job to land as many eliminations as possible with the smallest amount of damage as possible. You're gonna have to read between the lines a little bit. I'm not saying don't damage. What I'm saying is the more damage you do, the more support ultimates the enemy team gets, which is the deal breaker for every single match at the moment. And finally, supports. First and foremost, please heal first and damage second. Supports in Marvel Rivals are unique because they have the ability to pump damage, but without making your heals #1 priority, you'll be letting your team die far too often. And lastly, off the back of my previous statement, please do not let someone tell you that you should not be doing damage on support, because you 1000% should be, especially on characters like Mantis, Luna, and Rocket. Alright, you've made it this far. You've grasped the basic fundamentals and developed yourself a really nice base to build upon. We're going to quickly cover the ranked playlist in Marvel Rivals so that you understand how to climb. As mentioned before, you'll be playing a random mix of Convoy, Convergence, and Domination. Just like every other game, there's a tier of ranks available for you to climb as high as your heart desires. Marvel Rivals features Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Grandmaster, Celestial, Eternity, and One Above All, which features the top 500 players on your server. Between Bronze and Celestial, you'll find that each rank includes a triple layered tier system, 3 being the lowest and 1 being the highest. Each tier requires you to gain 100 rank points to advance to the next. Rank points are earned in 2 ways. Yes, I said it, 2 ways. You can gain from winning or during a tie if you performed well. But be careful, deranking is a thing in Marvel Rivals, and you can lose substantial points from a loss depending on multiple variables. Finally, once you make your way into Eternity, you'll find that you'll just gain or lose RP without moving up and down any tier system. This is intended to function in a similar manner to Immortal 3 in Valorant. The top 500 players in Eternity based on total RP are by default given One Above All, making them the top 500 players in your server. Okie dokie guys, I promise you this is the end of this video. If you're still here watching, I appreciate it more than you know. This was my first true shot at creating something long form on YouTube using strictly B-roll and in-game content. If you enjoyed it, be sure to let me know what your favorite part was in the comment section below. I'm already hard at work on my next creation, so be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And also make sure you follow my Twitch channel linked in the description below. I'm live every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'll catch you all in the next one.